We spend so much of our lives chasing success, chasing validation, chasing people, approval, status, numbers. And the more we chase, the further it all seems to run. But here's the truth. Chasing is rooted in scarcity. It's not built on vision. It's built on fear. Fear that we're not enough. Fear that we're falling behind. Fear that if we stop running, we'll lose everything. But what if stopping is exactly what brings us closer? See, when you stop chasing, you don't fall behind. You wake up. You stop running in a race that was never meant for you. And that stillness, it gives you clarity. Because clarity doesn't shout, it whispers. And you can't hear it when you're sprinting through your own life. When you stop chasing, you stop trying to force outcomes. You stop begging life to deliver something it never promised. Instead, you start listening, and you begin aligning. And what's meant for you doesn't need to be chased. It starts showing up. When we chase something, whether it's success, money, recognition, or even love, it often feels like ambition. It looks like drive. But under the surface, chasing is almost always rooted in scarcity, not vision. And there's a big difference between the two. Scarcity tells us, if I don't get this now, I never will. Vision says, if I keep becoming, it will find me. Scarcity makes us act from fear. Vision moves us with purpose. The problem with chasing is that it comes from a place of not enough. Not enough time, not enough opportunities, not enough attention. At its core, it's built on the belief that something is missing. And that we need to run faster, do more, hustle harder to catch up. But what are we really chasing? Most of the time, we're not chasing a goal, we're chasing a feeling. A sense of worth, a moment of being seen, a brief taste of peace that we think we'll finally earn once we arrive. But when the root is scarcity, even when we catch what we're chasing, it won't satisfy us because the mindset that created the chase will never allow us to feel like we've arrived. We'll simply move the goalpost and start running again. That's the trap of chasing. From fear, it's never enough. The success won't be enough. The applause won't be enough. Even love, when chased from a place of emptiness, won't feel secure. Scarcity doesn't just steal our peace. It clouds our judgment. It convinces us to pursue things we don't even want. It makes us say yes when we mean no. It drives us to compare, to compete, and to constantly question if we're falling behind. Vision, on the other hand, comes from a place of fullness. It doesn't rush. It doesn't panic. Vision isn't about having everything figured out. It's about being rooted in purpose. When we live with vision, we're pulled forward by a deeper why, not pushed by anxiety. We stop focusing on what's missing and start leaning into who we're becoming. There's a quiet confidence in vision. It trusts the process. It creates from alignment, not urgency. This shift from scarcity to vision is not just about mindset, it's about identity. Chasing says, I need to prove I'm enough. Vision says, I already am. And that shift changes how we show up. Instead of begging for attention, we earn respect. Instead of forcing opportunities, we prepare ourselves for them. We stop being reactive and start becoming intentional. You don't need to chase what's already aligned with who you are becoming. The more grounded you are in your values, the less you need to impress anyone, the less noise you need. Because vision doesn't scream, it leads. And when you follow your vision instead of your fear, everything you are chasing starts moving toward you. Scarcity screams urgency. Vision whispers direction. When we stop chasing from fear and start building from vision, we stop surviving and start creating. That's when things shift. That's when people begin to notice. Not because we're louder, but because we're more centered. Not because we're chasing, but because we're becoming. And in the end, the world doesn't need more people who are chasing something. It needs more people who are clear about who they are and where they're going, without panic, without noise, and without fear. That's how everything changes. In a world that constantly demands motion, stillness can feel uncomfortable, even wrong. We're taught to keep moving, keep grinding, keep chasing. Action is glorified, silence is avoided. But there's a truth we rarely hear. Stillness breeds clarity. When you slow down, you begin to see things as they are, not as you wish they were. You hear the thoughts beneath the noise. You feel the tension you've been ignoring. You notice the patterns that have been quietly shaping your life. Stillness doesn't create clarity, it reveals it. It removes the distractions long enough for truth to surface. When you allow yourself to be still, without reaching for your phone, without distracting yourself with tasks, something powerful happens. You start to feel again. You start to reconnect with your intuition. The part of you that already knows what's right, but often gets buried under urgency and expectations. We often think clarity will come from having all the answers laid out, but most of the time, clarity comes from subtracting what's unnecessary. Stillness helps you do that. It shows you what doesn't matter. It reveals what you've been holding on to out of habit, not purpose. It forces you to confront the parts of your life that are loud but empty. Stillness isn't weakness, it's strength under control. It's the confidence to pause in a world that wants you to sprint. It takes courage to stop moving long enough to ask, why am I doing this? What is it actually leading me toward? You know, people who make the best decisions aren't the ones who do everything quickly. They're the ones who give themselves the space to think. They reflect. They listen. They don't confuse speed with progress. And that's what stillness offers, perspective. It gives you altitude over your life. It helps you see the bigger picture instead of reacting to every little detail. There's a reason some of the most profound ideas come to people in the shower, during a walk, or while sitting alone. Those are moments of stillness. The mind isn't being pulled in 10 directions. It's allowed to wander, to connect dots, to see clearly. When you live without stillness, you live in confusion. You might be busy, but you're not clear. You might be productive, but you're not purposeful. Stillness is the reset. It grounds you. It brings you back to center. It clears the fog. And the irony is, when you create space for stillness, you waste less time. Because once you're clear, your actions become sharper. Your choices become more aligned. You stop chasing things that don't serve you. You stop saying yes to what drains you. You begin moving from a place of conviction, not confusion. Stillness isn't the absence of progress. It's the foundation of it. If you want to live a life of meaning, if you want to make decisions that matter, if you want to feel connected to something deeper than the next achievement, you need stillness. You need to slow down. Not forever, but long enough to remember who you are and what actually matters. That's where clarity lives, not in the noise, not in the hustle, but in the quiet space you create when you finally allow yourself to be still. Desperation is a silent repellent. It's the energy that pushes away the very things we long to bring closer. We often think that wanting something badly enough should attract it, whether it's love, success, approval, or opportunity. But when desire turns into desperation, the energy shifts. What once could have been drawn toward us starts to move in the opposite direction. Desperation is rooted in lack, is built on the belief that we are incomplete without the thing we want. It whispers, I need this to feel whole, or worse, I won't be okay without it. And when we operate from that mindset, we don't just chase, we cling, we pressure, we overreach, and anything touched by desperation feels heavy, unstable, and unsafe. People can feel it. So can circumstances. The reason someone highly qualified still doesn't get the job. It's the reason someone who loves deeply still pushes the other person away. Desperation doesn't say, I value this. It says, I fear losing it. And that fear is loud. There's a difference between intention and desperation. Intention is powerful, it's clear, calm, and grounded. It says, I know what I want and I'm prepared to work for it. Desperation says, if I don't get this, I'm nothing. One comes from a place of inner strength. The other comes from emotional survival. The truth is, we attract not what we want, but who we are. If you carry the energy of lack, neediness, or anxiety, you draw in situations that match that frequency. Not because the world is cruel, but because people respond to energy more than words. If you enter a room anxious to be liked, people feel the weight of that need, even if they can't name it. If you pitch an idea while clinging to the outcome, the room feels your fear more than your passion. Desperation chokes potential. It puts so much pressure on the outcome that it collapses under its own weight. And when something or someone feels pressured, the natural instinct is to retreat, not because what you're offering isn't valuable, but because it's not being offered freely. It's being used to fill a void. But the moment you stop needing the outcome to validate you, everything begins to shift. You become lighter. Your energy becomes cleaner. You no longer grip so tightly. And that freedom is attractive. It signals confidence. It signals stability. And that's what draws people, opportunities, and alignment. You don't need to beg for what's meant for you. You don't need to convince anyone to see your worth. The right things recognize grounded energy. They don't respond to panic. They respond to presence. When you let go of desperation, you also let go of manipulation. You stop trying to control every detail. You stop tying your self-worth to someone else's reaction. You start trusting yourself. And that trust is magnetic. You begin moving from wholeness, not hunger. You show up as someone who is already enough, not someone waiting to be completed. Letting go of desperation isn't giving up on what you want. It's surrendering your need to grasp it. It's about doing your part, staying open, and trusting the process. When you detach from needing the outcome, you give space for better outcomes to appear, ones that you might have been too tense to see before. In the end, desperation doesn't just repel what you desire, it blinds you from recognizing what's actually good for you. When you release that energy, you begin to attract not just what you want, but what's aligned, what's healthy, and what's real. That's when things change, not when you chase harder, but when you stop chasing from fear and start showing up with trust. Letting go is one of the hardest things we can do, not because we're weak, but because we've been taught that holding on is strength. We cling to relationships, roles, goals, and identities because we believe that control equals safety. But real alignment doesn't happen through control. It happens when we let go. Letting go isn't quitting, it's not failure, it's not apathy. Letting go is an act of clarity. It means recognizing what no longer fits, what no longer serves, what no longer feels true, and having the courage to release it. When you let go, you create space. And in that space, alignment begins to emerge. Most people think alignment is something you find, like a treasure hidden at the end of a perfect path. But alignment isn't found, it's revealed. It's what's left when you strip away the noise, the pressure, the expectations. It's the truth that rises to the surface when you stop forcing what was never meant for you. We spend so much time trying to make things work that were never designed to last. We hold on to jobs we've outgrown, friendships that drain us, dreams that belong to who we used to be. Why? Because letting go is terrifying. It forces us to face uncertainty. It strips away the illusion of control. But that discomfort is often the beginning of something deeper. A life that's not built on obligation, but alignment. When you let go, you're not giving up. You're getting honest. You're saying, this isn't right for me anymore. And that's okay. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough about your peace, your growth, and your values to stop betraying yourself. Alignment begins when you stop gripping things out of fear. Fear of missing out, fear of what others will think, fear of being alone. Fear distorts your compass. It makes you chase what looks good instead of what feels right. But when you let go, you quiet that fear. You return to yourself. You stop asking, what do I have to hold on to? And start asking, what is truly aligned with who I am now? And here's the irony. When you finally let go, the right things can actually find you. The right opportunities, the right people, the right direction. They don't need to be chased. They need to be received. But they can't land in a life that's full of forced pieces. Alignment doesn't compete with clutter. Letting go also builds trust, not just in the process, but in yourself. You start to realize that you are capable of walking away from what's misaligned without losing your identity. You learn that you can feel uncertain and still move forward. You begin to trust your own inner signals, the subtle pulls, the quiet discomfort, the truth beneath the noise. We often think we have to fight for our future, but the reality is we have to clear space for it. That's what letting go does. It opens the door. It allows what's real to enter. It lets the authentic version of your life catch up to you. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to be honest about what's not working. Then when you start honoring that honesty, life begins to align, not instantly, but steadily. You move from forcing to flowing, from gripping to grounding, from surviving to living, in sync with what really matters. Letting go isn't the end. It's the beginning of a life that makes sense. Not because it's perfect, but because it's finally aligned with who you truly are. In a world that constantly pushes us toward faster decisions and more immediate results, peace often feels like a luxury we don't have time for. We've been conditioned to believe that pressure is a sign of importance, that the faster we decide, the more capable and efficient we are. But in truth, it's the opposite. Peace, not pressure, creates better decisions. Pressure clouds judgment. It distorts our perception of what truly matters. When we make decisions under pressure, we tend to react instead of respond. Our choices are influenced by urgency, fear of missing out, or the need to appease others. We may choose what's easiest or most immediate rather than what's best in the long run. The body and mind under pressure go into survival mode, focusing on escaping discomfort rather than evaluating the most thoughtful, aligned course of action. Contrast that with peace. Peace doesn't rush. It doesn't force. It isn't about avoiding action. It's about allowing yourself the time and space to think clearly, to assess, and to choose what aligns with your deeper values. When you are at peace, you approach decisions with a calm sense of clarity, trusting your judgment and your inner wisdom. You have the presence to step back, evaluate all options, and choose what feels right, not just what feels urgent. When peace guides your decisions, you are more connected to your long-term goals and values. Pressure, on the other hand, pulls you into the present moment's chaos. You might make a decision that solves an immediate problem, but overlooks the broader consequences. The immediate might feel like the most pressing concern, but is often the long-term vision that needs our attention. And peace allows us to remember that vision, to make choices that reflect where we truly want to go, rather than where we feel compelled to be. Peace also fosters patience. Pressure tends to make us impatient, pushing us to act now, even when the situation doesn't demand it. And the rush to meet deadlines or satisfy expectations, we often fail to give ourselves the necessary time to gather the right information, to reflect, or to wait for the right opportunities. Peace teaches us that not every decision needs to be made immediately, and that sometimes the best course of action is simply waiting for the right moment to act. Consider how many decisions you've made in your life that were fueled by pressure, whether from an external source or from within yourself. How many times have you said yes when you meant no because you didn't feel you could say no? How many times have you rushed into something because you felt like you had to, only to regret it later? Pressure often results in decisions made from a place of obligation or fear, rather than from genuine choice or alignment. But when you make decisions from peace, you are able to say no when you need to. You can choose what serves your well-being, what aligns with your values, and what brings you closer to your purpose. Peace gives you the strength to stand firm in your choices, to trust that you don't need to conform to others' timelines or standards. It allows you to trust that the right opportunities will come when the time is right, and that forcing things into place rarely leads to long-term success or fulfillment. Peace also improves the quality of your relationships. When you're at peace, you approach conversations and conflicts with a calm demeanor and an open mind. You're less likely to react emotionally or defensively. You take a step back and listen before responding. In high-pressure situations, you might say things you don't mean, make decisions based on short-term emotions, or allow frustration to cloud your interactions. But peace enables you to approach others with understanding, patience, and empathy. At the heart of it all, peace allows you to make decisions based on what is truly important, not what is urgent. It teaches you to act from a place of confidence, grounded in your values and long-term vision. Pressure, in contrast, often leads to reactive, impulsive decisions that are more focused on avoiding discomfort than on creating something meaningful. In the end, the more peace you cultivate in your life, the more consistently you will make decisions that are aligned with your true self. You will find yourself making better choices, feeling more fulfilled, and experiencing less regret. Peace doesn't just help you make decisions. It creates a life where your decisions feel right, and you can trust the direction you're heading. We've all been taught to chase success. It's ingrained in us from an early age. You get the right grades, land the perfect job, climb the corporate ladder, earn the recognition. The message is clear. Success is something to be hunted down. It's something you reach for, run after, and struggle to attain. But the truth is, success isn't something you chase. It's something you become. Chasing success comes from a mindset of lack. It's driven by the belief that you aren't enough right now. You need something outside of yourself to complete you, be it a title, an achievement, or the approval of others. In this chase, success feels like a destination, something you must relentlessly pursue until you get there. But the problem with this approach is that the more you chase, the more elusive it becomes. You may catch fleeting moments of success, but they often don't bring the fulfillment you expect. The race never ends, because success always feels just out of reach. Becoming, on the other hand, is a journey that starts from within. It's not about pursuing an external prize. It's about embodying the qualities, values, and skills that align with who you are and who you are becoming. When you focus on becoming, on developing yourself, expanding your capabilities, and living in alignment with your purpose, success follows naturally. It's not something you chase, but something that unfolds as a result of your growth. When you shift from chasing to becoming, you stop measuring success by external markers. Success isn't defined by how much you earn, how many people follow you, or what job title you hold. Instead, success becomes about how much you've evolved, how much you've learned, and how aligned your actions are with your deepest values. You start measuring success by who you are becoming, not just by what you have. This shift is crucial because it changes your entire relationship with success. Chasing success often leads to burnout, frustration, and dissatisfaction. You push yourself harder and harder, only to find that no matter how much you achieve, you still feel like something is missing. But when you focus on becoming, the pressure dissipates.